Pitches are really disruptive. They are a huge distraction. They drain resource on the client side and of course on the agency side.
Do you know what wins a pitch these days?
Why is the agency CEO saying it's the most enjoyable pitch? Because it's not normally a word that people associate with media pitches. Right, we're talking today again about pitches.
Yes.
You might have noticed last week we spent some time talking about unethical pitches, and that follows a media snack. We did it's probably a month or two ago now, where we were talking about a quite scandalous pitch around BMW in the US. But we thought we'd use this opportunity to actually talk about really what makes a great pitch. We were reminded, we were talking about this morning, you might have seen this in the background many times on Media Snack, but our friend Tom Fishburne sent us this. This is actually original, it's not original, it's a print, which Tom very kindly signed, but it highlights agencies being exploited as part of pitch processes.
And we're going to talk about the opposite today.
Yes.
Getting the most out of the agencies.
Exactly. So, it's a busy pitch year.
Yes, it is. We know that it's a very cluttered pitch market. You know, we've managed already about $5 billion worth of pitches, both global, regional, across Europe, in the US. We're managing a pitch. This year, we think we'll probably be responsible for about $8 billion. So we've got a perspective on kind of the good and the bad of media pitching.
Exactly. And it's pertinent because this is the time of year. Typically, these are the beginnings of conversations where marketers and their procurement colleagues are starting to think about pitches that they're going to run in 2019. And it typically, in our experience, takes about 6 months from kind of initial seed idea through to full prep before you go to market.
That's right.
It's about 6 months' time.
Yeah. We've noticed a number of things this year about the pitches that we're managing that perhaps differ from the pitches of 2-3 years ago.
And the playbook's changing, doesn't it? I mean, that's a good thing for us, I suppose, but the pitches are changing all the time.
They're evolving. They're evolving to the marketer's needs, which is critical. And the first thing that I think is most visible in certainly the pitches that we're reviewing is they're all about the operating model, and they are asking the market to stretch themselves. Okay, so it's no longer about providing their entire kind of marketing services requirements to one holding group. Now they're fragmenting scope. So in a lot of the operating models that we're talking to the agencies about, it's about separating data analytics from kind of media planning and buying and programmatic. And so they're challenging the market to come back with a solution that is based on their internal operating requirements.
I think that's really interesting. I think one of the other things that we've observed as well is, this whole thing about, CMOs becoming more interested in media becoming kind of highly kind of visible or more priority internally within marketing organizations and within corporations. We're finding a lot more senior stakeholders attending media pitches now. Actually, a lot more marketers across businesses interested. But the difference is they're not just turning up and like picking an agency, like maybe they might have done a few years ago. We're finding we've got very senior stakeholders, business owners, not just marketers, senior people, and they come already with a view, right? They've got an opinion on media. They've got an aligned vision. Sometimes we've helped them define that, but they come prepared, and interested, and that's really good. I mean, I've been really pleased to see that in the last year.
And do you know what wins a pitch these days?
I don't know, lowest possible pricing? No.
It's about talent, and it's about cultural fit, and it's about thought leadership. So sometimes the intangibles of a media pitch, the things that make the biggest difference is talent. And whether that agency has got the cultural fit and the empathy to fit with the client's organizations. And that is a massive shift, certainly from where we were in 2015.
Exactly. And that is just really good to see. We see it all the time. We see, we sit in a room with marketers and we meet a whole bunch of different agencies that are kind of pitching for their business, and you just see marketers, and the procurement teams just get excited about, a great cultural fit. It's electric, and you see talent that just they kind of fall in love with. And that makes such a difference. It just begins this relationship with such great momentum and belief. And then it's everybody's job, including ours sometimes, to make sure that that continues through the duration of that relationship, which hopefully is for many, many, many years. So one of the perennial questions that comes up when talking about pitching, and we speak to a lot of agencies, we speak to a lot of marketers, a lot of procurement leaders, are they getting better? They kind of maybe getting a bit more complicated in some places. Are they getting better or are they getting worse?
Well, they're getting better, without question. And the reason they're getting better is because the amount of time and effort and consideration that goes into the preparation stage before the client often ignites the pitch is done so well, with so much kind of thought and effort, that often the pitch processes themselves can be compressed into a relatively narrow window, enabling, I hope, the agencies to maintain a sense of energy and momentum during that process without them being these drawn out, long-winded kind of events that go on for over a year. So it's the preparation that I think has changed, that has enabled a kind of a more effective pitch process, certainly in the reviews that we're involved in.
Exactly right, yeah. And we listen to agencies and we ask a lot. In fact, we're in the process at the moment in the US of doing a piece of field research across US-based agencies, just trying to understand where the pain points are in typical pitch. The idea is that we can kind of use that to innovate the process, and removing the pain points allows agencies to perform better, and that's in the interest of the marketer. So that's good. So we really listen. We try and innovate the process continually just to make that more effective. That's important. Last week, which I think we've just put out the episode, so it'll be linked up here. I did a Media Snack Meets with Mike Cooper, and Mike Cooper is the global CEO of PhD, and they had very recently won HSBC's global media account as part of a pitch. And Mike had said publicly, and then I kind of forced him into repeating it on air on Media Snack, of course, is that he said the HSBC pitch was the most enjoyable pitch that they'd ever participated in.
That was a review that we managed.
Which we've managed.
In full disclosure.
But I mean, you were very hands-on with that, with HSBC. Why is the agency CEO saying it's the most enjoyable pitch? Because it's not normally a word that people associate with media pitches.
Well, in fairness, I mean, Mike won it. PhD won it. I mean, that was probably part of the enjoyable bit. But I also think that one of the reasons why the pitch process was considered strong and good by, I think, all of the agencies that participated in it was because of the initial involvement of all the stakeholders. We had lots and lots of client stakeholders, but they were all from the very beginning fully invested in the process. That enabled an aligned vision of what the process would look like and how the review should be measured. And it came actually from a very clear mandate and very strong leadership from the CMO, which was Leanne Kutz, who drove the process internally with a very, very clear vision and mandate. And I think, watch the episode. It's a really interesting interview, I think, with Mike. I mean, he talks about how they set the tone, and it kind of felt enjoyable from the beginning. Hopefully not just because of the result, but anyway, good for them. We say this all the time. Pitches are really disruptive. They are a huge distraction. They drain resource on the client side, and of course on the agency side. Particularly, if you're the incumbent, that's distracting. So a lot of people distracted from the day-to-day business. So it's got to be a very good kind of rationale and reason to do a pitch. It's got to have very clear objectives. But where they succeed, it's really organisation. I think when we talk about what makes a great pitch and how can it be enjoyable or rewarding for both sides, it's just organisation, right? It's just that's the planning and the organisation. Right then, good week 4. France.
Oh God, okay. Yeah.
Having won the World Cup on Sunday.
Congratulations.
But that wasn't the only battle that was taking place over the last 3 weeks. There was also the battle of the big sporting goods businesses. So the battle between Adidas, that sponsors the World Cup, and Nike, that doesn't, right? And the winner of that battle, it appears, is Nike. So not only did they have the shirt sponsorship of both teams in the final, therefore the winner, they also sponsored the winner of the Golden Boot, so the person that scored the most goals. The winner of the Golden Ball, the best player in the tournament.
Luka Modric.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also the best young player in the world.
Mbappe.
Yes, well
Okay.
done. And they scored 100 goals. So without any sponsorship, it was most definitely a great week for France and also for Nike.
Yeah, and they don't spend any money in associating with FIFA and the World Cup.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they get the headlines.
And it's been a bad week for?
It's been a bad week for Google already. Now let me get this. This is kind of complicated. So, Google have just been fined $5 billion by the European Commission. Let me just tell you that again. That's $5 billion, which is now the largest antitrust or anti-competitive fine ever issued in the EU. Mm-hmm. This comes a year since Google also had the ignominy of also having, at that point, the largest ever fine ever issued for anti-competitive behaviour, which was nearly $3 billion last year. So this week, I think it happened today, in fact, or yesterday, this was due to their Google encouraging handset manufacturers for their Android phones to pre-install Google apps, Google Search, and so that made it therefore the default. The EU have said that's anti-competitive, slapped all this fine. Last year's fine was because they were accused of manipulating results from their shopping results for searches. So in the last year, we're looking at about $7 billion fine, which is about equivalent to Google's Q1 profit. So it seems like a lot of money. Yeah. This is a business which is supposedly sitting on about $90 to $100 billion in cash. So that's going to be slightly painful, but not debilitating for Google. Where they're going to really feel the pain is that actually this week's ruling is going to potentially require some real change of behaviour from Google if they're not allowed to promote Google Search on Android phones. That could really dent their search business. And if you bear in mind that's a $60 billion revenue business, far bigger than the fine itself, if that is impacted, that has a long-term impact on the value of Google. So that's the ruling that's just come through. Bad week for Google. Absolutely. There's still 3 other outstanding EU investigations into Google's practices, like their advertising business, their maps business. So it could be a very bad year for Google, not just a bad week.
They may appear again.
They may appear again, I'm sure they will. Right, that's it for this week. We have question of the week first before we go, which is, can pitches be enjoyable?
Yes, no, and whatever.
Excellent. If you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up, but that's your media snack for now.
See you next time. Respectful and courteous to the agencies.
Yeah. I glued my fingers together this morning.
This is brilliant.